What's up guys, my name is Andy. If your shocks do this and your truck bounces like that, it's a pretty good indicator your shock is done and it's time to replace them. When we do it to the other side, the truck doesn't bounce as much, it's a lot more solid, so I can tell that this side is fine, but when you're in here, you might as well go ahead and replace both front shocks. They're pretty easy to do, so let's jump right in. And this is one of those projects where we can do one side at a time, so we'll go ahead and get the truck jacked up and put it on a jack stand. There we go. Now you can probably do this without removing the tire, but for the simplicity of the video, I'm gonna get the tire out of the way so we can see what's going on in here. So what's great about these shocks is how simple they are to remove. We've got one nut on the top up there, and then we've got a bolt and a nut on the bottom down here. So we're gonna use a 9/16 wrench to get this nut off, and then I'm gonna use a 1/4 inch to hold the stud in place so that I can get this nut loose. And that wasn't too bad. And then we can use a impact driver to take the rest of it off. There we go. That was easy. Now this shock, because it's blown, it's done, we could just push it down and it should pull right out of here. And now we need to get the bottom nut. And now we can use a 3/4 inch wrench and a 3/4 inch driver here, and we'll see if we can get this guy off. Ah, that was really easy. So here's the hardware that we get with the new shock, and we're going to use everything that we got here. I wanted to point out real quick, if you look at the new shock, it should extend out like that. That means we've got a good shock, it's doing what it's doing, that's what we want. But if you take a look at the old one, and we compress it, it just stays there. So that's another indicator that this one's no good, and if you get a new one and it was like that, then that one's no good too. So we're just going to put it in the same way we took it out. We're going to reuse the bolt and the lock washer and the nut that was on the bottom here. So we'll put that in, and then on the top, we're going to capture this bushing inside here. Make sure that you've got that little ring and that thing's sticking up. And then on the top side, we'll do the opposite direction. And then we've got two nuts here because we're gonna use them as a locking nut to secure the top of this shock. So we're gonna wanna drop this shock in here. We'll feed it up through the hole up top. And then get it captured here in the bracket down below. I want to forget the lock washer that's on here, and then the nut. A wrench on here, and zip this on. There we go. And you'll probably find that you need to jack up the I-beam here to get that shock to fit up inside the spring cup. And then we'll put the bushing upside down compared to the other one. There's a hole inside the spring cup up here that this lip on this bushing will fit down inside. You wanna make sure you line that up on there. Put the washer on there. And you're gonna put the fat nut on the bottom because the shorter nut is gonna be the jam nut. We'll put this little guy on here. We'll use two 9/16 wrenches to hold these down and lock them in place. Cool, all right, this side's done. Let's do the same thing on the other side. What's great about these kind of swaps is it's the same thing on both sides. You know, everything we did on the driver's side, we're gonna do on the passenger side. We're gonna take this 9/16 nut off the top, and then we've got that 3/4 inch bolt and nut on the bottom, pull the shock out, put the 3/4 inch bolt and nut back on the bottom, lift the I-beam up a little bit so the shock fits up through the top of the shock tower here, and then put the new nuts on and tighten them down, we'll be good to go. All right, cool, don't forget to torque your lug nuts. Now you're probably wondering, Andy, why did you just go with these real basic KYB shocks? And that's a good question. The big reason is, for what I need on this truck right now, these normal KYB shocks are sufficient. They're not performance oriented, you know, I'm not trying to take this truck around the racetrack yet. But I got other plans for the truck down the road, so there was no point in spending a bunch of money on some shocks to get some extra performance I'm just not going to use yet. So I think this is a great shock for just a replacement. What I took out of there was old and tired. I don't know how old they were. They could be the original shocks, I don't know. But I do know that what we got in here now is going to be a lot better for this truck for the time being, and that's what I was looking for. Again, this is an easy install. you saw a 9/16 wrench and a 3/4 inch wrench, right? And that's pretty much what it takes to do those. So pretty simple, and swap them out and then bring you back on the road. Cool. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next one.